Maybe if I knew he was lying, I wouldn't have cheated in the first place.
Wow. You have got to be kidding me. What's going on, everyone? This is Mark Reel Jr., the father's rights attorney, and today we have another video from the internet that was sent in that I am going to react to and give some advice around the family law aspects of the video.
I don't know how else to say this, but my husband is manipulating and emotionally abusing me.
Very common allegation. Let's see what she's got.
Tell me about it. Whatever you're comfortable talking about. Yeah, I don't want you to just talk. Tell me as much as you feel comfortable telling me.
Okay, so let me just start from the beginning. When my husband and I first started dating, we had this deep conversation about cheating. He told me, clear as day, if this ever happens, I need to know straight away. If you tell me and it only happens once, I think I could forgive you. And honestly, that stuck with me. It made me feel like, okay, if I ever screwed up, at least being honest would matter to him more. Fast forward 5 years and we're married now. A couple weeks ago, there was this company party, and I don't even know how to say this, but I made a huge mistake. I slept with a coworker. I know, it's awful. It was a moment of weakness, and I've hated myself every second since it happened. That conversation we had all those years ago, it kept playing in my head. I thought, if I just told him, at least I'd have a chance to fix things, you know? So a couple of nights ago, I brought it up. I asked him if he remembered those conversations we had about cheating.
She's trying to frame the conversation to get out of her mistake.
He was like, which one? Because we had a lot of talks like that early on. So I reminded him about how he said he would forgive me if it only happened once, if I was honest. And then I told him everything. His reaction was immediate. He looked mortified. He didn't even say anything, just packed his stuff and left. I begged him to stay.
Fair reaction.
I was crying,
you just told him you cheated on him.
Trying to explain, but he wouldn't listen.
Trying to rationalize. Right.
He said he needed to cool down and walked out.
Great response by the guy.
The next day, we finally talked, and I tried to remind him of that conversation, thinking maybe it would help him maybe understand why I confessed. And do you know what he did? He laughed. He was just there on the other end of the phone laughing. Then he told me that he never meant any of it. That he only said he'd forgive me back then to make sure I'd confess if I ever cheated. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I know what I did was wrong. I'm not denying that for a second, but to hear him say he lied to me, that all this time he never actually meant to forgive me, it felt like, I don't know, like I'd been set up.
Been set up?
No, he's planning to divorce me, and he said there's nothing I can say or do to make him change his mind. And I get it. I broke his trust. But at the same time, it feels like he broke mine, too. I believed we had this understanding, you know? And maybe if I knew he was lying, I wouldn't have cheated in the first place.
Wow. You have got to be kidding me. She just said that maybe she would not have cheated if 5 years ago he hadn't said, I may be able to forgive you. So first piece I want to point out is, from what she said, there is absolutely no emotional abuse occurring on the man's part. If anything, she's attempting to manipulate the situation. I believe she's honest and truthful in saying, hey, we had this conversation 5 years ago, and he said, I need to know straight away, and I may be able to forgive you. That sounds reasonable. But to hear her say the only reason she cheated was because he said he may be able to forgive her is insanity. And you can hear her attempt to manipulate what was said and the conversations and frame it in a way where I would argue that if anyone's being manipulative in this situation, it is 100% her. So I'll be honest, as a divorce attorney that has represented a lot of men in court, I think that I could probably count on one hand the number of times people have reconciled because of cheating and it actually successfully worked. I've seen it where they reconcile after cheating of either party and they co-parent together, or maybe they get back together. But it always seems that that kind of fissure or crack, that broken trust that comes from cheating, typically is the death nail in a marriage. You really don't see marriages come back from that. But to hear her tell the story this way says she was the manipulative one. Sitting there and saying, hey, maybe I wouldn't have cheated if 5 years ago he wouldn't have said he may be able to forgive me. And I want to give this guy kudos. He was clearly emotional, probably angry in the moment. And he said, hey, I'm leaving and I need to cool off. That is the exact appropriate response. Don't get yourself in trouble, because emotional abuse is grounds for a domestic violence restraining order. Disturbing someone's peace through text messages, phone calls, in-person conversations can be grounds for a domestic violence restraining order. And it sounds like this man handled the situation exactly right. And when this woman, who is taking no accountability, no ownership for her actions, doesn't like his response of saying, hey, I'm not going to be able to trust you, we're going in separate ways and we're going to get a divorce, she's the one who is now calling into radio shows and telling people these stories in an attempt to manipulate the way they're viewing the situation. At its core, she cheated. She tells him. He says he's not going to be able to forgive her. We need to get a divorce. And she was hoping he would say, hey, I think I can try to work this out with you. When he didn't do that, she's went into full-on manipulation mode. And this is a huge red flag that if you see conversations like this occurring, if your partner is saying things like this to you after making a mistake or breaking your trust, this is your sign to run. And she's starting to use buzzwords where I can almost guarantee you that she's going to make accusations of emotional abuse, maybe physical domestic violence. She is going to make things up in order to make herself look better. Just in this brief video, there's a lot of things that point to her being a token narcissist, having some sort of personality disorder. So good on this guy for getting out of the house. I mean, could we have done without laughing at her when she calls? Yes, but given the way she's trying to rationalize and explain away what she's done here, I can understand why he's reacting in that way. So great job by the guy. This is exactly how you want to do it. Don't let your anger, don't let your emotions get the best of you, because even in a situation where there is no emotional abuse, there is no manipulation, but she's trying to create that manipulation. She's trying to create that emotional abuse. As a man, you cannot put yourself in that situation. So he's putting himself, sounds like a marriage without kids, in a really good position to be able to walk away and move on with his life. Where if he ends up with a restraining order, if he tries to work it out, and then she does get something that she can consider domestic violence and she runs the court, and it's really about saving face. I see this all the time. Usually, both parties have been the aggressor in some sense when there's allegations of domestic violence. Typically, the woman is the one who files first, or files period, because they're trying to save face. They're trying to create the narrative they want to make themselves look better. So kudos to this guy. Shame on this woman. Her argument is just asinine. It is completely out of line. It is absolutely insane to me that she's attempting to make this argument in public. She sounds ridiculous. So once again, kudos to the guy. If he came to me as a client, I would tell him he did everything exactly the right way. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys found this informative, educational, maybe a little bit entertaining, and we'll see you guys all again next time.